Perhaps it should not surprise us that as he lay dying, the tennis great raised his hand and gave the OK sign. The world had become familiar with Arthur Ashe's indomitable spirit. More from Julian Phillips.
Hollywood is the ultimate dream factory, but it's also the world's most dangerous crime scene. You think you know how your icons died? The headline said pneumonia, exhaustion, or complications. But behind the red carpet, they were fighting a silent, agonizing war, rotting from within, their bodies betrayed, their legacies erased. This isn't just a story about illness, it's a story about a cover-up. Today, we're peeling back the velvet curtain on 17 legendary black stars who were sentenced to death by a system that couldn't handle the truth. Grab a box of tissues, because the reality is far more brutal than the headlines told you. Hit subscribe if you're ready for the truth. 17. Eazy-E, 1995, the 10-day death sentence. From the hardened streets of Compton to the top of the rap game, Eric Eazy-E Wright seemed untouchable. As the founder of NWA and Ruthless Records, he was the explosive voice that brought gangsta rap into the mainstream. His high-pitched delivery and fearless lyrics about street life, power, and survival turned him into a cultural force who sold millions and lived the flashy, dangerous lifestyle he rapped about. But in late February 1995, the empire began to crumble. It was a seemingly ordinary day in late February 1995 when the empire began to crumble. Eric Eazy-E Wright, the fearless 5'2" street king who had built NWA and Ruthless Records into a West Coast empire, walked into Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. He thought it was just another stubborn cough, maybe asthma or bronchitis from years of smoking, late nights, and the hard partying lifestyle that came with fame. But inside the cold examination room, the doctors delivered a nightmare. Sitting there in his baggy clothes, the man who once rapped with unstoppable confidence heard the words that stopped his world: full-blown AIDS. The virus had been silently destroying his immune system for years. The root cause was clear: his notorious, well-documented promiscuous lifestyle during the peak of his success in the late 80s and early 90s. With women throwing themselves at the rising rap star, Eazy lived fast and rarely protected himself, never imagining the deadly price he would pay. The diagnosis hit him like a bullet to the chest. Shock and disbelief washed over his face. The high-pitched voice that once commanded the streets now trembled as reality sank in. Just weeks later, on March 16th, lying weak in that same hospital, he released his devastating public statement. "I feel like I've been given a 10-day death sentence." 2 days earlier, in an incredibly emotional bedside ceremony surrounded by beeping machines and tearful family, he married his pregnant girlfriend, Tamika Woods. His once compact, energetic body had wasted away at terrifying speed. Gaunt face covered in lesions, bones visible under thinning skin as opportunistic infections ravaged him from within. On March 26, 1995, only 10 days after that public message, Eazy-E died at age 30 from AIDS-related pneumonia. The shocking speed of his death sparked intense conspiracy theories that still circulate today. Many claimed he was deliberately injected with the virus, possibly through tainted acupuncture needles or a syringe, as revenge and industry beefs or to silence his influence, with some pointing toward rivals like Suge Knight. Eazy-E's lightning collapse remains one of the most haunting stories in hip-hop. It showed how quickly the toughest figure on the streets could be brought down, forcing an entire generation to finally confront the reality of HIV/AIDS. 16. Arthur Ashe, 1993, The Cruel Irony of Medicine. Arthur Ashe lived a life defined by discipline, quiet strength, and dignity, a true gentleman in a brutal world. The Virginia native became a tennis pioneer, the first black man to win the U.S. Open and Wimbledon champion in 1975. Beyond the court, he used his platform to fight apartheid and advocate for civil rights with intelligence and grace. His nightmare began during heart bypass surgery in 1983. Before blood was routinely screened for HIV, Ashe received a contaminated transfusion. The virus entered his body without him knowing. Years passed until 1988, when tests after another surgery revealed he was HIV positive and the disease was advancing to AIDS. He and his wife, Jean, kept the secret for years to protect their young daughter and his reputation. Then, in April 1992, privacy was ripped away. USA Today planned to publish the story. On April 8th, Ashe stood in a packed New York press conference room, cameras flashing everywhere. With visible pain and anger in his voice, the proud champion read his statement. "Some of you have heard that I tested positive for HIV. That is indeed the case. I am angry that I was put in the unenviable position of having to lie if I wanted to protect my privacy." It was a deeply humiliating public moment for a man who valued dignity above all. Despite everything, Ashe channeled his suffering into advocacy, founding the Arthur Ashe Foundation to fight AIDS and stigma. On February 6, 1993, at age 49, he passed away from AIDS-related pneumonia. What makes Ashe's tragedy so bitter is the cruel irony. A man of perfect discipline betrayed by the medical system that was supposed to heal him, then publicly shamed in his final years. His courage turned personal pain into a lasting legacy of humanity. 15. Alvin Ailey, 1989, a slap to the academic arts world. In the vibrant heart of New York City's dance scene, Alvin Ailey built something eternal. Born in rural Texas in 1931 and raised in the shadow of segregation, he founded the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater in 1958, a company that celebrated Black bodies, Black stories, and the full spectrum of the African American experience. His masterpiece, Revelations, became one of the most performed and beloved works in modern dance history, blending gospel, blues, and raw emotion into breathtaking movement. By the late 1980s, Ailey was widely regarded as a genius who had elevated Black dance to the global stage. But behind the curtain of success, a devastating secret was unfolding. On December 1, 1989, at the age of 58, Alvin Ailey died at a hospital in Manhattan from AIDS-related complications. In his final days, he made a heartbreaking request to his doctor: announce the cause of death as terminal blood dyscrasia, a rare blood disorder, instead of AIDS. He wanted to spare his elderly mother, Lula Cooper, from the crushing stigma and shame the disease carried at the time. His family fought intensely to keep the truth hidden, fearing it would damage the reputation of his beloved dance company and tarnish the legacy he had spent decades building. The official statement after his death spoke only of the vague blood disease, allowing the world to mourn a legendary choreographer without the added weight of the era's prejudice. It wasn't until years later that the full truth emerged. Ailey had lived much of his personal life privately, and the intense secrecy surrounding his illness reflected the terror many faced in the late 1980s, when an AIDS diagnosis often meant social death long before physical death. Alvin Ailey's passing felt like a slap to the entire world of academic and concert dance. Here was a man who poured his soul into celebrating Black life and humanity, yet in his own final chapter, he was forced to hide the truth out of fear. His courage on stage and quiet vulnerability off it make his story one of the most poignant in American arts history. 14. Kevin Peter Hall, 1991, The Monster Brought Down. Standing an imposing 7 feet 2 inches tall, Kevin Peter Hall was a gentle giant who became a Hollywood icon by playing literal monsters. Born in Pittsburgh in 1955, the former basketball player and trained dancer found his niche portraying larger-than-life creatures. He terrified audiences as the deadly predator in the 1987 blockbuster Predator opposite Arnold Schwarzenegger, and returned for Predator 2 in 1990. He also stole hearts as the lovable Bigfoot-like Harry in Harry and the Hendersons. On screen, he was unstoppable, a towering force of nature. Tragedy struck in the fall of 1990. While driving in Los Angeles, Hall was involved in a serious car accident and rushed to the hospital for emergency surgery. During the procedure, he received a blood transfusion that was contaminated with HIV. At that point, blood screening wasn't yet foolproof everywhere. The virus took hold quickly. While filming the TV series Harry and the Hendersons, Hall bravely went public with his diagnosis, supported fully by his wife, actress Elena Reed Hall, known for 227, whom he had married in 1988. His condition deteriorated rapidly. The man who had loomed large on screen wasted away as AIDS-related complications set in. On April 10, 1991, in a hospital in Hollywood, California, Kevin Peter Hall died from AIDS-related pneumonia at just 35 years old, barely a month before his 36th birthday. His death came shockingly soon after the release of Predator 2, leaving fans stunned that the invincible hunter from the jungle had been silently defeated by something invisible. What makes Kevin Peter Hall's story so crushing is the cruel irony of it all. A physical giant who played unstoppable monsters on film was brought down by a medical mistake in the very system meant to save him. His openness in his final months, with his wife by his side, stood as a quiet act of courage in an era when many chose silence. 13. Max Robinson, 1988, the silenced voice in the news. Let me tell you about Max Robinson, a man who broke barriers only to be quietly erased by fear. In 1978, he became the first black co-anchor of a major network evening news show, ABC World News Tonight, sharing the desk with legends like Peter Jennings. With his deep voice and commanding presence, Robinson delivered the news to millions every night, a powerful symbol of black achievement in a white-dominated industry. But by the late 1980s, his health was visibly crumbling. Rumors swirled that alcohol abuse was destroying him. In reality, AIDS was ravaging his body. He grew thinner, his once strong frame weakening as the disease took hold. In the fall of 1988, while speaking at Howard University in Washington, D.C., he became critically ill and checked into Howard University Hospital. There, behind closed doors, Max Robinson fought his final battle in secret. He died on December 20th, 1988, at age 49, from AIDS-related complications. Only after his death did his family reveal the truth, hoping it would educate the black community about the danger. The real tragedy was how the industry and society preferred to blame his decline on personal failings rather than face the truth. Max Robinson, the trailblazing voice, was silenced twice, once by the disease and once by the stigma that forced him into the shadows. 12. Larry Riley, 1992, acting through the decay. Picture this. An actor on a popular TV show whose body was visibly falling apart week after week on camera, yet no one was allowed to know why. That was Larry Riley. Best known for playing Frank Williams on the hit soap Knots Landing, Riley was a talented musician and performer from Memphis who brought charisma to every scene. In the early 1990s, viewers noticed something alarming. Riley's once fit frame was wasting away dramatically. His cheeks hollowed out, his skin ashen, his movements slower and more fragile with each episode. He was literally acting out his own physical decline in front of millions. Behind the scenes, he had begged his doctors, "Don't treat me fully, just keep me alive long enough to finish filming this season." Diagnosed with HIV years earlier, he kept it hidden from everyone except his wife, terrified it would end his career. On June 6, 1992, in Burbank, California, Larry Riley died of AIDS-related kidney failure at just 39 years old, only 2 weeks before his 40th birthday. The truth about his illness only came out after his death. It's heartbreaking to think of him pushing through every take, smiling for the cameras while his body betrayed him. Larry Riley didn't just perform tragedy on screen. He lived it in silence until the very end. 199 words. 11. Willi Smith, 1987, the collapse of a fashion empire. Willi Smith was on top of the world. The visionary black designer behind Williwear had built a $25 million empire of affordable, street-inspired fashion that dressed everyone from everyday New Yorkers to celebrities. His clothes were fun, fresh, and revolutionary, street couture that made high style accessible. Then, in early 1987, everything unraveled with shocking speed. After a fabric-buying trip to India, Smith returned sick. He was admitted to Mount Sinai Medical Center in New York City with pneumonia and a parasitic infection. His once vibrant, energetic body grew frail almost overnight. Just days later, on April 17, 1987, at only 39 years old, Willi Smith died. An autopsy later revealed AIDS as the underlying cause, something he may not have even fully realized. The media downplayed the real story, listing only the immediate infections. His business partner and friends described him as fragile in his final weeks, but the glamorous fashion world quickly blurred the details to protect the industry's shiny image. The cruelest part was watching a creative empire built on joy and color crumble right at its peak. Willi Smith's sudden exit left a massive hole in American fashion and highlighted how even massive success couldn't shield black talents from the devastating silence surrounding AIDS. 10. Sylvester, 1988, a voice singing in the darkness. Sylvester James, the flamboyant, falsetto-voiced queen of disco, lit up stages with hits like You Make Me Feel, Mighty Real. Known for his bold, androgynous style and powerful stage presence, he was a beloved icon in San Francisco's vibrant scene. By 1988, the lights had dimmed. After losing his partner to AIDS the year before, Sylvester's own health collapsed. He developed a persistent cough, grew weaker, and his once glamorous, larger-than-life body became painfully thin. The disco community that once celebrated him largely stayed away, terrified of being associated with the gay plague. He faced his final months in growing isolation. In late 1988, Sylvester died on December 16th in San Francisco at age 41 from AIDS-related complications. True to his bold spirit, he planned his own funeral, lying in an open casket wearing a striking red kimono, makeup done perfectly so the world could see him one last time. What makes Sylvester's story so painful is the loneliness at the end. The man whose voice filled dance floors with joy passed away, singing in the shadows, abandoned by many who feared the stigma. Yet even in death, he left royalties to AIDS charities, turning his personal tragedy into lasting help for others. 9. Howard E. Rollins Jr., 1996, Oscar or Blacklisting. Some careers in Hollywood are built on talent, others are quietly dismantled by whispers. Howard E. Rollins Jr. knew this all too well. After earning an Oscar nomination for A Soldier's Story and captivating audiences as Chief Virgil Tibbs on In the Heat of the Night, his once charming face began to hollow out. His frame grew painfully thin, and tabloids eagerly blamed drug problems and unprofessional behavior as the reasons he was suddenly being written out of projects. By late 1996, the truth was far darker. Diagnosed with AIDS, Rollins's body deteriorated rapidly. On December 8, 1996, he died at St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital Center in New York City from AIDS-related lymphoma at age 46. In his final days, the distinguished actor lay frail and wasted in his hospital bed, a shadow of the commanding presence that once lit up the screen. Rumors spread that Hollywood had turned its back on him the moment word of his illness leaked. Opportunities vanished, doors slammed shut, and old colleagues distanced themselves. What makes Rollins' story so bitter is how quickly a barrier-breaking talent became disposable once the stigma attached. An Oscar-nominated star was effectively blacklisted not by politics, but by fear. 8. Franklyn Seals, 1990, A Lifetime Secret. There are stories Hollywood tells, and then there are the ones they choose to erase completely. Franklyn Seals brought warmth and precision to the role of Dexter Stuffins on the beloved sitcom Silver Spoons. The talented Caribbean-American actor had built a respectable career across stage and screen with quiet dignity. But in his final year, his body betrayed him in silence. By spring 1990, Seals had become alarmingly frail, his once polished frame reduced to skin and bones. He passed away on May 14, 1990, at age 37, at his family's home in Brooklyn, New York. The official cause was complications from AIDS, yet for years afterward, many official tributes and in memoriam segments strangely omitted him or glossed over the real reason, as if the industry wanted his name to fade quietly. The deepest cut is how thoroughly his struggle was buried. A gifted performer who made audiences smile was almost completely wiped from the collective memory, his battle hidden even in death. 7. Gene Anthony Ray, 2003, Tragedy in the New Century. Even when medicine finally offered hope, some lights were still forced to burn out in the dark. Gene Anthony Ray burst into fame as the fiery, street-smart Leroy Johnson in the movie and series Fame, dancing with explosive energy that defined a generation. But after his HIV diagnosis in 1996, he fought mostly alone. In 2003, a devastating stroke hit him hard. His once powerful dancer's physique wasted away in a Manhattan hospital room. On November 14, 2003, Gene Anthony Ray died at just 41 years old from stroke complications linked to AIDS. In his final weeks, he was a frail, exhausted shell of the charismatic performer fans remembered. Thin, weak, and largely forgotten by the spotlight. Media coverage often reduced his death to consequences of his lifestyle, fueling old rumors about his past. It's heartbreaking that even in the 21st century, with treatments available, Gene still had to hide and fade away. The boy from Harlem who danced with pure fire left us carrying the weight of silence. 6. Marlon Riggs, 1994, The Camera of Truth. Some people don't just face death, they stare straight into the lens and force the world to watch. That was Marlon Riggs. The brave documentary filmmaker, known for Tongues Untied, turned his camera on himself in his final work, Black Is, Black Ain't. As AIDS advanced, Riggs's body visibly collapsed. Viewers can still see the haunting footage, his once vibrant skin stretched tight over protruding bones, his face hollow and sunken, his voice growing weaker but never losing its fire. He documented every painful stage of his decline to expose stigma, racism, and silence within the Black and gay communities. On April 5, 1994, Marlon Riggs died at his home in Oakland, California, at age 37 from AIDS-related complications. The film was finished by his team after his passing. Unlike so many others, Riggs refused to let his truth be distorted or hidden. He left behind raw, unflinching images of a man dying with his eyes wide open, a rare and courageous act that still shocks and inspires. 5. Freddie Hubbard, 2008, A Jazz Legend Erased. Even the most explosive voices in music can be silenced in the quietest way. On the evening of December 29, 2008, at Sherman Oaks Hospital in California, the legendary jazz trumpeter Freddie Hubbard took his final breath at the age of 70. His once powerful body, renowned for the blistering energy and technical brilliance that defined hard bop and fusion, now lay shrunken and still in the hospital bed, surrounded by beeping machines after suffering a severe heart attack weeks earlier. The fire that once lit up stages around the world had been completely extinguished. For nearly 2 decades, Hubbard had been secretly waging a painful war against HIV. The virus slowly destroyed his legendary embouchure, robbed him of the stamina needed for long performances, and forced him into increasingly rare appearances. Yet when he passed, the official reports focused solely on heart complications, deliberately omitting the long battle with AIDS. Many of his devoted fans and even some in the jazz community remained unaware of the full truth behind his declining health. The man who had collaborated with giants like John Coltrane, Herbie Hancock, and Wayne Shorter left behind an incredible catalog of music, but the personal cost he paid in silence was almost entirely erased from public memory. What makes Freddie Hubbard's story so tragic is how a towering figure who helped shape modern jazz was allowed to fade away without the world knowing the depth of his private suffering. In an era when treatments existed, he still chose, or was forced by stigma, to fight mostly alone. His death highlighted how even celebrated Black artists in the 21st century could have their full stories buried under convenient medical labels. Today, when we listen to his soaring trumpet lines, we should remember not just the genius, but the quiet resilience of the man behind the horn who battled an invisible enemy for 20 long years. 298 words. 4. Marsha P. Johnson, 1992, The Mysterious River. The river doesn't lie, but the city often does. On July 6, 1992, police recovered the body of Marsha P. Johnson floating face down in the cold, dark waters of the Hudson River near Christopher Street Pier in New York City. The 46-year-old Black trans activist and Stonewall legend showed visible signs of head trauma. Her body was left exposed on the pavement for hours as authorities quickly labeled the death a suicide and closed the case with shocking speed. Marsha had been living openly with HIV while continuing her tireless activism for LGBTQ+ rights, homeless queer youth, and people with AIDS. Friends and fellow activists insisted she was in high spirits and full of fight just days before her disappearance. Witnesses reported she had been harassed and threatened shortly prior. Many in the community firmly believe she was murdered because of her outspoken activism and visibility during a dangerous time. Despite calls for a proper investigation, the case was dismissed almost immediately, leaving painful questions unanswered for decades. The haunting image of Marsha's lifeless body drifting alone in the same river she once celebrated and marched beside remains one of the most disturbing symbols of that era. A woman who gave everything to uplift others was discarded by the system she challenged. Her death was not just a personal tragedy, but a collective wound that exposed the deadly intersection of racism, transphobia, and AIDS stigma. Marsha P. Johnson's fearless spirit helped spark a movement, yet in death she was met with silence and indifference. Her story continues to demand justice and remembrance. 3. Essex Hemphill, 1995, a voice silenced. When a poet speaks dangerous truths, silence becomes the final punishment. On November 4, 1995, in a modest home in Philadelphia, the brilliant black gay poet and activist Essex Hemphill died at the young age of 38. In his final weeks, his once strong and charismatic body had been ravaged by AIDS, reduced to a frail, exhausted shell as the disease took its relentless toll. The vibrant performer and writer who had electrified audiences with raw, unflinching words was now confined and fading. Hemphill had courageously confronted the AIDS epidemic, black identity, sexuality, and desire in his poetry and performances at a time when most chose silence. Because of his honesty, segments of society branded him dangerous or threatening. Support systems failed him, and mainstream media gave his death little attention. He had already lost countless friends and lovers to the same plague, channeling that grief and rage into powerful art that refused to look away. Essex Hemphill's voice was nearly buried with his body, yet his words continue to cut through the silence he fought against his entire life. His work exposed the double epidemic of disease and societal indifference. In his final years, even as his physical strength failed, he kept creating, determined to leave behind unfiltered truth. His death was another painful example of how many brilliant black queer artists were pushed to the margins and forgotten too soon. 2. Bill Gunn, 1989, the Blacklisted director. Hollywood has always known how to bury those who make it uncomfortable. On April 5, 1989, in Guilford, Connecticut, the visionary black playwright, novelist, and director Bill Gunn passed away at age 54. In his final days, AIDS-related encephalitis and meningitis had completely wasted his once dynamic creative body, leaving him weak and isolated in the hospital as his mind and strength slipped away. At the height of his career, Gunn had challenged the industry with bold, unflinching works that exposed raw truths about black life in American society. As his illness became known, studios reportedly pulled projects and distanced themselves, treating him like a sacrificial symbol of the AIDS epidemic. His groundbreaking plays and films were quietly sidelined, and his death received minimal recognition. The same industry that feared his voice made sure it was silenced. A fearless black artist who spent his life confronting the system was ultimately erased by that very system when he needed compassion most. Bill Gunn's courageous storytelling laid bare uncomfortable realities, but in the climate of fear surrounding AIDS, that courage became a liability. His final chapter revealed how quickly talent and vision could be discarded when stigma entered the picture. 1. Robert Christian, 1983, Patient Zero. He died in darkness before the world even had a name for the monster. On January 27, 1983, in a cold and sterile New York City hospital room, actor Robert Christian drew his last breath at age 43. His once vibrant performer's body, known for roles on Another World and powerful stage performances, had been reduced to a skeletal shell by a terrifying mystery illness. Doctors had no clear diagnosis. They described it as strange cancer or rare pneumonia. He passed in near total isolation, one of the earliest documented AIDS cases among black performers, long before the disease had an official name. Fear and confusion surrounded the unknown plague. Medical staff and society were terrified of what they didn't understand. Robert deteriorated rapidly in his final months, facing the end almost completely alone with almost no public acknowledgement or support. His death was recorded as a medical mystery and quickly forgotten. Imagine being among the very first victims, suffering horribly and vanishing without answers, without a name for your killer, and without the world's attention. Robert Christian's lonely, quiet exit marked the horrifying beginning of a crisis that would claim thousands of brilliant black talents in the years that followed. His story is a stark reminder of how invisible and terrifying those early days truly were. As we come to the end of this heavy but necessary journey, one question lingers in the mind. If these brilliant black talents, Freddie Hubbard, Marsha P. Johnson, Essex Hemphill, Bill Gunn, Robert Christian, and so many others, had been born just 1 or 2 decades later, when medicine had finally caught up. Would they still be with us today? Would their genius, their voices, their art have continued lighting up the world instead of being cut short in silence and stigma? The truth is painful. Many of them didn't die because their bodies were weak. They died because the world around them was cruel, scared, and unprepared. The same industry that celebrated their talent turned its back when they needed compassion the most. So tell me in the comments, who hit you the hardest in this video? If these legends had today's medicine and less stigma, whose story do you think would have been completely different? Drop your thoughts below. I read every single comment. If this video opened your eyes or touched your heart, please hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join the family. We're uncovering the hidden truths and untold stories of Black excellence, tragedy, and resilience every single week.